Today is Thursday, August 7th, 2025. This is the 47 Daily Podcast. My name is Mark Kaye. How do you like them apples? 600 billion of them. President Donald Trump hosted Apple CEO Tim Cook in the Oval Office yesterday for a very special announcement. But before he made the special announcement, he, of course, took a moment to talk about the tragic shooting, the devastating shooting at that Army base in Georgia.
Before we begin, I'd like to say a few words about the shooting at Fort Stewart in Georgia. As you know, 5 people were seriously wounded and 2 very, very seriously hurt around 11 o'clock this morning. The shooter is now in custody, and the Army Criminal Investigation Division is on site to ensure that the perpetrator of this atrocity, which is exactly what it is, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The entire nation is praying for the victims and their families, and hopefully they'll fully recover. And we can put this chapter behind, but we're not going to forget what happened. We're going to take very good care of this person that did this, horrible person.
Yeah, Cornelius Radford is his name, and he's a sergeant in the Army, and we're not really sure what the motive is yet, but that investigation is ongoing. The shooting happened, as President Donald Trump said yesterday, Fort Stewart, Georgia, and it was a huge story all day long as we were trying to get all of the information out. All 5 of the victims are in the hospital still and in, I believe, somewhat stable condition. Many of them did require surgery, but this is, of course, a tragedy that Donald Trump had to mention right before his meeting and send out his thoughts and prayers. Then, of course, he met with Tim Cook and got $600 billion in investment money here in the United States of America. This is incredible for a couple of reasons. Number one, Apple is notorious for not spending money in the United States of America while simultaneously making all their money from every single American who purchases an iPhone and an iPad and a MacBook. This is Apple finally realizing that if they want to continue to do business here at home, they've got to make some of their materials here at home. And that's exactly what they're pledging to do.
Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest. And this is the largest investment Apple has ever made in America and anywhere else. And it's just an honor to have you. As you know, Apple's been an investor in other countries a little bit. I won't say which ones, but a couple. And they're coming home. $600 billion. It's the biggest there is. The company is also unveiling its ambitious new American manufacturing program, which will bring factories and assembly lines across our country all roaring to life.
I mean, that is truly a turnaround because, as Donald Trump pointed out, they spend a lot of money in other countries. I'm not going to mention China. I'm not going to mention which one it is. But now they're bringing the $600 billion home. And that is the key. $600 billion that Apple brings to the United States of America is $600 billion that they don't take to China. And that means $600 billion less that the Chinese government can use to build military and space age technology to use against us. That's fewer weather balloons they can use to survey our army bases and our missile silos and just let float across our country. Not like Donald Trump would let that happen anyway. That's fewer military nuclear submarines that they can build in their race to try to become the dominant seafaring force. That's the less money that they can spend on AI technology. $600 billion is a massive investment here in the United States of America. And as Donald Trump says, it's one that should be a no-brainer since Apple is an American company. It's based in California, and most of its consumers are here in the U.S. as well. Incidentally, Tim Cook brought this little piece of glass to Donald Trump on a 24-karat gold base. And this is the glass that's going to be manufactured in a new factory they're opening up in Kentucky. So bourbon and Apple glass. Oh, and also horse racing. That's what Kentucky will be known for after this. But Donald Trump says, look, all of this investment, it changes the course of American history.
Thank you very much. It changes our country. I mean, our country is a very different country than it was 6 months ago. And people like Tim are coming. We had Micron in yesterday. We had all of the big, great companies that you read about, you don't know about, but you read about. Many of them were making products outside of our country. Foolishly, we lost them. If we had the right person sitting in that seat, that would have never happened 20 and 30 years ago. When you look at the chip business, it would have never left our shores. We had 100% of chips originally, and then we slowly got taken down to nothing. We have the biggest chip companies, both of them, but we have the biggest in the world coming in. They're going to Arizona and beyond. And we're going to have, in a short period of time, we'll be up to almost 50% of the chips from starting in nothing. And that's something. But we have the greatest companies in the world coming into our country, and that means jobs. And it means wealth, and wealth means security for our people.
Yeah, and that's all thanks to President Donald Trump and his economic team. As you can see them in the background there, Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick peering over Donald Trump's shoulders at Tim Cook, this is a coup because Tim Cook and Apple and Steve Jobs and the rest of them have never invested this kind of money in the United States of America. They've always been about finding the cheapest labor, and that has been a cause of concern and a cause of consternation with the Apple Corporation and the United States government for a long time. But look, Donald Trump, he's just bringing people together, and they're $600 billion. He did take some questions, by the way. And of course, one of the big questions yesterday was about the attack on Big Balls, the Doge employee who was trying to help a woman who was getting carjacked by a gang of young thugs. 13, 14, 15-year-old gang members were trying to carjack a woman in D.C., and Big Balls stepped in. He got brutally beaten. There was a photo of him shirtless and bloodied, all sitting by a police car. And Donald Trump was asked once again, because he floated the idea of federalizing the District of Columbia, he was asked, are you going to take over the police force?
In DC, are you considering taking over the DC police? Is that an option on the table?
We're considering it, yeah, because the crime is ridiculous. I could show you a chart comparing D.C. to other locations, and you're not going to want to see what it looks like. It was just up on television, actually. They were showing it. Now, we want to have a great, safe capital, and we're going to have it. And that includes cleanliness, and it includes other things. We have a capital that's very unsafe. You know, we just almost lost a young man, beautiful, handsome guy that got the hell knocked out of him the night before last. And I'm going to call him now. We wanted to give him a little recovery time. We just put a call into him. They're calling back in a little while. But he went through a bad situation, to put it mildly, and there's too much of it. We're going to do something about it. So whether you call it federalized or what, and that also includes the graffiti that you see, the papers all over the place, the roads that are in bad shape, the medians that are falling down, the median in between roads that's falling down. We're going to beautify the city. We're going to make it beautiful. And what a shame. The rate of crime, the rate of muggings, killings, and everything else, we're not going to let it. And that includes bringing in the National Guard, maybe very quickly, too.
I'm going to be honest with you. It sounds to me like he has his mind made up. I know he says he's looking at it and he's thinking about it, but I feel like Donald Trump's given this a lot of thought. Cleaning up the graffiti, cleaning up the barricades, making sure there's no trash on the street. It is the nation's capital, and the capital of the United States of America is the capital of the world. President Donald Trump is bringing in world leaders and bankers and investment brokers and people who are making investments of billions of dollars to the White House. And some of the places they have to drive through are not at all up to snuff, if you would, for our nation's capital. It should be the most beautiful. It should be the most picturesque. It should be the safest place in the country. But unfortunately, it is not. And a lot of that is because of the D.C. Home Rule Act, which President Donald Trump says they are looking at and they may have to revoke.
And do you want Congress to look at overturning the D.C. Home Rule Act?
We're going to look at that. In fact, the lawyers are already studying it. We have to run D.C. This has to be the best run place in the country, not the worst run place in the country. And it has so much potential. And we're going to take care of it. You're going to be safe. You're going to be safe walking down streets. You're not going to get mugged.
The D.C. Home Rule Act, by the way, that was the act in 1973 that was signed that relinquished control of the District of Columbia from Congress, who had to control it, to a locally elected government, including a mayor and a city council and everything else. But apparently it was a bad idea because since 1973, the state of the District of Columbia has just dissipated, and you've had scandal after scandal. Marion Barry is, of course, one of the most famous scandals. Mayor Bowser also not not up to par, not doing her job as the mayor. And so President Donald Trump has his lawyers looking at the DC Home Rule Act of 1973, looking to see if it can be overturned, or if, I mean, and it is, look, it's up to Congress to get rid of it. If Congress wants to overturn it or revoke it or do whatever they want, they can. Unfortunately, Congress right now is on vacation till September the 2nd, but we'll see what happens when they come home. I imagine that will be kind of a battle in Congress, as most things are. And then Donald Trump, I guess, was asked about Howard Stern and Stephen Colbert and their cancellations, and whether or not it was his policies or his politics or his second administration that did them in. And Donald Trump said, no, I'm not the reason that Howard Stern and Colbert aren't on TV anymore, aren't on the radio. The reason is they got no talent.
Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that. Howard Stern is a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show. We used to have fun. But I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated?
Yeah, they're going to separate ways because I think what they're offering salary-wise is real low than what he's getting.
You know when he went down?
Whenever you want.
You know when he went down? No, before. When he endorsed Hillary Clinton, he lost his audience.
Right.
People said, give me a break. He went down when he endorsed Hillary Clinton.
And then he interviewed Joe Biden, and then he endorsed Kamala Harris, and he said we should all be forced to take vaccines and F our freedom. There are a whole bunch of Howard Stern clips, which could lead to his inevitable demise, which could be the reason why SiriusXM is canceling his contract and he'll no longer be on the air. But it does definitely seem that the go woke, go broke mentality is alive and well in the entertainment industry, if you even call it that. Speaking of big changes, and speaking of getting things done, and speaking of a country that is almost unrecognizable from where we were last year, there's talks with Vladimir Putin, very serious talks between Steve Witkoff and Vladimir Putin and the Russian envoys to try to end this war in Ukraine. And yesterday, President Donald Trump was approached by Russia. Vladimir Putin would like to speak with the president, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, said, look, this is all because Steve Witkoff's been out there negotiating and they're ready.
Well, Steve went over to Moscow yesterday, Steve Witkoff, Ambassador Witkoff, and had a productive meeting in terms of what was discussed, the details that perhaps hadn't been shared before in terms of some ideas about how to bring this war to an end. Let's remind everybody that's the goal here. The president wants to end the war. So it was productive in that sense. We now have to continue to make progress. The president, after getting that update today, convened several leaders from Europe, updated them on what happened in the talks. We're going to be having talks with our European allies and the Ukrainians as well over the next couple of days, just to see what progress we can make on that side of it. And then hopefully, if things continue to progress, an opportunity will present itself very soon for the president to meet both with Vladimir Putin and with President Zelensky at some point here, hopefully in the near future. But obviously, a lot has to happen before that can occur. But I've always said this, that I think for the deal, if there's going to be a deal to end this war, it'll have to require the president to come in at the end and close on it, as I've seen him do numerous times now on trade deals as an example. So we got to get close enough to that point so that a meeting like that will be productive and worth doing. Today was a good day, but we got a lot of work ahead. There's still many impediments to overcome, and we hope to do that over the next few days and hours.
That is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, saying, look, we're moving very quickly on a deal with Ukraine and Russia, with Vladimir Zelensky and Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump's going to have to come in at the end and close the deal. He's going to have to bring everyone together and say, here's what we're doing, boys, and get all the signatures on the dot the I's, cross the T's. Is that what you do? Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Zelensky strikes me as the type of person who dots his I with a heart. I don't know why. I just get that. He just gives me dot your I with a heart vibes. But Donald Trump said, look, we're not there yet, but we definitely are moving forward. And there could be some kind of major summit, which I imagine, if Donald Trump can end this war as well, in addition to all the other wars that he's ended and all the other conflicts he's stifled, I would imagine that this would have to be the final nail in the Nobel Peace Prize coffin.
Have Putin and Zelensky agreed to a summit yet? And where and when would that be?
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. and there's a very good chance that we could be ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
Yeah, and that is something that, of course, all sides want. Donald Trump has been promoting peace in that region since he started running again for a second term, and of course, it's been one of his long-term goals. One that has not yet been found, but again, we're still in the first year of a 4-year term. If Donald Trump can get this done through a process that includes tariffs and economic pressure, pressure militarily. Supplying Ukraine with more missiles and making sure that everybody knows. I mean, just what Donald Trump has been able to accomplish with the EU deal, $750 billion of energy not being spent with Russia, but instead being spent in the United States of America. A brand new deal with India where Donald Trump has raised the tariffs on India to 50% because they're buying so much Russian oil. Donald Trump's plan with Russia is exactly what he did the first time around with Iran. He's trying to bankrupt them because if they ain't got no money, they can't buy no stuff to go fight in Ukraine. And that's exactly what he knows. He follows the money trail. He sees that it's coming from energy and oil and natural gas. And so he chokes off the supply. He cuts deals with their customers to bring that business to the United States of America, which makes us richer and makes him poorer. And when you don't have money to fight a war, you've got to figure out a way to end the war. And the fact that Vladimir Putin and his Russian envoys have approached Steve Witkoff and said, let's get together with the president and talk. That's a blink. That's the first blink. And it looks like somebody is going to be moving forward to end the war. And it looks like it's going to be very, very soon. There's some other information about Israel and an executive order President Donald Trump signed to rein in the rogue banking industry that has been targeting conservatives and closing their bank accounts. And we'll get to all of that in our second daily podcast. There's so much news every single day that we have not one, but 2 daily podcasts. Our second one is called Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. It's live every day at 1 p.m. or you can download it at your leisure on Apple iTunes or Google, or the Spotify, wherever you can. If you want to find where the best place to listen to the podcast, simply go to markkaye.com, MarkKaye.com. Download, subscribe, listen, and enjoy.